The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. They built telescopes. They sent rockets. They dreamed of meeting other beings among the stars. In the year 2187, that dream came true, but it was not the meeting anyone had hoped for. Captain stood on the bridge of the Defiance. The ship was not large. It was a patrol vessel, one of 20 that guarded the outer edges of Earth's solar system, had served in the Earth Space Navy for 15 years. She had never fired a weapon in anger. She had never seen combat. None of them had. Humanity had been at peace for almost a century. The bridge was quiet. Lieutenant sat at the sensor station, watching his screens with bored eyes. Navigator Jones was drinking coffee. Engineer was telling a joke to the weapons officer, a young woman named Sarah Park. It was a normal day. The last normal day any of them would ever have. "Captain," said suddenly, his voice was different. There was something in it that made everyone stop and look at him. "I'm picking up something strange." Walked over to his station. "What is it?" "I don't know. It's big, really big, and it just appeared out of nowhere." Felt her heart beat faster. "Show me." The main screen flickered to life. At first, did not understand what she was seeing. There were shapes in the darkness of space. Many shapes. They were moving toward Earth. As the computer enhanced the image, his breath caught in her throat. Ships, hundreds of ships, maybe thousands. They were unlike anything humans had ever built. They were dark and angular, covered in strange patterns that seemed to move and shift. The largest ship was in the center of the formation. It was the size of a small moon. "My God," Jones whispered. Straining took over. "Send a message to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Unknown vessels approaching Earth. Jones, plot their course and speed. Park, bring weapons online. I want engines ready for anything." The crew moved fast. They were scared, but they were professionals. "Captain," said, his face pale, "they're not just heading toward Earth. They're heading toward the entire fleet. All 20 patrol ships are in their path. And Captain, there are more ships appearing every second. I count over 2,000 now." Stared at the screen. 2,000 ships. Earth had a total of maybe 300 military vessels in the entire solar system, and none of them were designed for real war. They were patrol ships, research vessels, cargo escorts. Humanity had no enemies. They had never needed warships. "Time until they reach us?" asked. "At current speed, 4 hours." 4 hours. Picked up the communication device. "This is Captain of the Defiance to all Earth vessels. We have unknown contact. Thousands of ships. I repeat, thousands of ships approaching Earth. All ships form up. We need to present a united front." The responses came quickly. Confusion, fear, disbelief. But the ships began to move. Within an hour, all 20 patrol vessels had formed a line between the approaching fleet and Earth. It was like standing in front of a tsunami with an umbrella. Then the message came. It came on all frequencies. It came in every human language at once. It came with images and sounds that burned themselves into the minds of everyone who heard it. "Beings of Earth, we are the dominion of the eternal stars. We have conquered 10,000 worlds. We have ruled this galaxy for 1 million of your years. Your world is now part of our territory. Your people are now our property. You will surrender all military forces. You will present your leaders for processing. You will not resist." The voice was cold. It was not cruel. It was simply stating facts, like a human might tell an ant that its hill was about to be stepped on. "You have 20 standard seconds to signal your complete surrender. If you do not surrender, we will destroy all military vessels and proceed with forced occupation. Your 20 seconds begin now." Stood frozen. 20 seconds. The aliens were giving humanity 20 seconds to decide its fate. Around her, her crew looked at her with wide eyes. They wanted her to tell them what to do. They wanted her to have a plan. Thought about her home. She thought about the small town in Argentina where she grew up. She thought about her mother, who still made the best empanadas in the world. She thought about her little brother, who had just had his first child. She thought about all the people on Earth who were probably watching this right now. Billions of people, all waiting to see what would happen. 15 seconds left. The communication device crackled. It was Admiral, the commander of the Earth Space Navy. His voice was shaking. "All ships, this is Admiral. We have been in contact with world governments. Given the overwhelming force against us, we have been ordered to stand down. Repeat, all ships stand down. We will begin surrender negotiations." 10 seconds left. Heard her crew let out breaths they had been holding, relief mixed with shame on their faces. They were going to surrender. They were going to become slaves to these aliens, but at least they would live. At least Earth would not be destroyed. Looked at the alien fleet on her screen. She looked at that massive flagship in the center. She thought about what surrender meant. She thought about humans bowing to these creatures. She thought about her mother being called property. She thought about her baby nephew growing up as a slave. 5 seconds left. Something changed in his heart, something hard and cold and burning all at once. She had spent her whole life following orders. She had spent her whole life being careful and smart and reasonable, but some things were more important than being smart. "Jones," said. Her voice was calm, calmer than she had ever heard it. "Plot a collision course with the alien flagship." Jones stared at her. "Captain." "Do it now." "Captain, that's suicide. We can't." "I said do it now, Lieutenant. That's an order." 3 seconds left. Jones's hands moved over his controls. Course plotted. "Give me everything the engines have. Everything." "Captain, the engines will burn out. We'll never be able to stop or turn." "I know, do it." 2 seconds left. Reached for the ship-wide communication. "All hands, this is the captain. Brace for impact. We're going in." 1 second left. The alien message ended. On the main screen, saw the alien weapons begin to power up. She saw the other Earth ships beginning to lower their shields in surrender. She saw the alien flagship sitting there like a giant spider in the center of its web. "Now," said. The Defiance shot forward. The ship was never designed for this kind of speed. The hull groaned. The lights flickered. Crew members were thrown from their feet, grabbed onto her command chair and held on as the stars became lines of light around them. 30 seconds to impact, Jones shouted over the noise. The aliens noticed them. Of course they did. The Defiance was heading straight for their flagship at impossible speed. Weapons fire began to streak toward the small human ship. The shields took hit after hit. Warning alarms screamed. "Shields failing," Park reported, somehow still at her station. "Keep going," said. 20 seconds to impact. A blast hit the side of the ship. The hull tore open. 3 crew members were sucked into space before the emergency doors closed. Did not look back. She could not afford to. 10 seconds. The alien flagship filled the entire screen now. Could see its surface, covered in those strange moving patterns. She could see what looked like windows. She wondered if the aliens inside could see her coming. 5 seconds. Another blast hit them. The lights went out. The engines died, but momentum carried them forward. Nothing could stop them now. "Brace," screamed. The Defiance, a small patrol ship with a crew of 42 humans, struck the flagship of the Dominion of the Eternal Stars at 3% the speed of light. The impact was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. The Defiance was destroyed instantly. Every human aboard died in less than a heartbeat, but the damage they caused was beyond calculation. The small ship had become a weapon of pure energy. It punched through the alien flagship like a bullet through paper. The flagship broke apart. Its weapons went silent. Its lights went dark. It split into 3 pieces that tumbled through space, leaking fire and atmosphere. On Earth, billions of people watched in shock. They had just seen a single human ship destroy the largest alien vessel in the fleet. They had just seen 42 of their people choose death over slavery. On the alien ships there was chaos. No species had ever attacked them, not once in a million years of conquest. Every world they found had surrendered. Every race had bowed. It was the natural order of things. The strong ruled and the weak obeyed. But these humans had not obeyed. For 3 long minutes nothing happened. The alien fleet hung in space. The Earth ships floated nearby, their crews staring at the wreckage of the flagship. No one knew what to do. Then Admiral's voice came over the communication system. It was different now. The fear was still there, but something else was there too. Something that sounded like hope. All Earth ships. This is Admiral, new orders from Earth Command. We do not surrender. Repeat, we do not surrender. All ships. Engage the enemy. It was madness. 20 small patrol ships against over 2,000 alien warships. It should have been over in seconds. But something strange happened. The alien fleet did not attack. They did not move. For the first time in a million years, the Dominion was confused. They had protocols for everything. They had procedures for every situation. But they had no protocol for this. They had no procedure for a species that chose death over surrender. The Earth ships formed up. They raised their shields. They powered their weapons. 19 ships faced 2,000. On the alien command ship, the new fleet commander stared at his screens. His name was something humans could not pronounce. He had conquered hundreds of worlds. He had seen millions of beings bow before him. But he had never seen anything like this. "Report," he demanded. "The primitive vessel destroyed the great ship, Commander. All aboard are dead, including the High Admiral." "How? Their technology is nothing. They are barely capable of space travel." They flew their ship into us, Commander, at high speed, on purpose." The commander was silent for a long moment. "They sacrificed themselves." "Yes, Commander." "Madness, absolute madness." The commander turned to his tactical officer. "Destroy the remaining ships, then proceed to the planet." "Yes, Commander." The alien fleet began to move. Weapons powered up. The Earth ships seemed tiny and helpless before them. But then another message came from the planet. It was broadcast on all frequencies, just like the alien message had been. But this voice was human. It was the Secretary General of the United Nations, speaking from Geneva. "To the alien fleet, you gave us 20 seconds to surrender. We used those seconds to show you who we are. We are humans. We do not surrender. We do not bow. We do not become property. Captain and her crew just showed you what we are willing to do. Every ship in our fleet will do the same. Every human on Earth will do the same. You can kill us all, but you will never own us." The commander listened to the message. He thought about what had just happened. One tiny ship had destroyed his flagship. The humans said all their ships would do the same. It was a bluff. It had to be a bluff. No rational species would choose extinction over submission. But these humans were not rational. The commander had just watched them prove that. "Commander," the tactical officer said, "orders." The commander made his decision. "Hold position. I need to consult with the High Council. This situation is unprecedented." For the first time in a million years, the Dominion hesitated. On Earth, people began to cheer. They did not know what would happen next. They did not know if they would live or die. But they knew that for now, in this moment, they had not surrendered. 42 people had given their lives to show the universe that humanity would not bow. In the wreckage of the alien flagship floating among the debris, there was a piece of metal. It was from the Defiance. On it, barely visible, was the ship's motto. The words had chosen when she first took command, years ago, never knowing how important they would become. The words said, "Still standing." The metal tumbled through space, carrying that message into the darkness. It was a small thing, a tiny piece of a tiny ship, but it meant everything. The first battle was over. But the war was just beginning. Across the galaxy, word began to spread. A species called humans had destroyed a Dominion flagship. They had chosen death over surrender. They had done the impossible. For the first time in 1,000,000 years, the conquered peoples of 1,000 worlds began to wonder, what if we did the same? The universe would never be the same, and it all started with 20 seconds and one ship that refused to stop. 3 days had passed since the Defiance had burned its way into history. 3 days since 42 humans had shown the galaxy what their species was made of. 3 days of waiting, watching, and wondering what would come next. The alien fleet still hung in space just beyond Mars. They had not attacked, they had not retreated, they simply waited, and humanity waited with them. On Earth, everything had changed. The video of the Defiance's final charge had been watched by every person on the planet. Captain's face was on every screen. Her name was on every tongue. Children were already playing games where they pretended to be her, flying their toy ships into imaginary enemies. But while the people celebrated a hero, the governments of Earth were preparing for war. The United Nations Emergency Council met in Geneva. The room was full of presidents, prime ministers, generals, and admirals. They came from every nation on Earth. For once, there was no arguing about borders or resources or old grudges. The threat outside their world had made all those things seem very small. General Williams stood at the front of the room. He was an old soldier, white-haired, and from conflicts most people had forgotten. He had thought his fighting days were over. He had been wrong. The alien fleet numbers approximately 2,300 vessels, he said, pointing at the holographic display. Their flagship was destroyed by the Defiance. Their second-largest ship has assumed command. We have been monitoring their communications, but we cannot understand their language yet. Why haven't they attacked? Asked the President of France. After what we did, I would expect retaliation. We don't know. Our best guess is that they're waiting for instructions from their home world. This has never happened to them before. They don't know how to respond. So we surprised them, said the Prime Minister of Japan. But surprise will only last so long. What do we do when they come? General Williams took a deep breath. We fight. With what? Asked the President of Brazil. Our entire fleet is nothing to them. We saw what the Defiance did. It was brave, it was incredible, but it cost us that ship and everyone on it. We cannot afford to lose ships at that rate. No, we cannot, Williams agreed. But the Defiance taught us something important. These aliens have shields and weapons far beyond ours. We cannot beat them in a straight fight, but they are not prepared for our way of fighting. They expect enemies to surrender. They expect rational behavior. They have never faced an enemy willing to die to hurt them. The room was silent. Everyone understood what he was saying. We are going to build weapons designed for one purpose, Williams continued. Impact. Every ship, every missile, every weapon we make will be designed to hit them as hard as possible. If we cannot match their technology, we will match their mass with our mass, their armor with our speed. We will make them pay for every inch of space they try to take. The Secretary General of the United Nations stood up. General Williams, you are talking about sending our people on suicide missions. No, sir. I am talking about giving our people the tools to fight back. The Defiance crew did not go on a suicide mission. They went on an attack mission. They knew they might not come back. They went anyway. We need to give that choice to more of our people. We need to build a military that can make the aliens bleed. And you think we can do this? In days, weeks? I think we have no choice. Every day we delay is a day they might attack. We need to start now. Far from Earth, on the alien command ship, Commander Vexaron was having his own meeting. The room was dark, lit only by floating lights that moved like living things. Around him sat the senior officers of the fleet. None of them had slept since the destruction of the flagship. The High Council has responded, Vexaron announced. His voice was calm, but his inner thoughts were troubled. They are sending additional forces, 3 more fleets. They will arrive in 20 local days. With respect, Commander, said his tactical officer, why do we need 3 more fleets? This world has perhaps 300 small ships. We have over 2,000. We could destroy them in hours. We could, Vexaron agreed. And then what? We land on the planet. We begin processing the population. And every human does what those 42 did on that ship. They attack us. Not with weapons, with their own bodies, with their own vehicles, with anything they can find. They would die. Yes, they would, and we would lose troops. We would lose equipment, we would lose time. And in the end, what would we have? A dead planet, empty cities, no slaves, no resources, no value. The officers shifted uncomfortably. The Dominion did not destroy worlds. They conquered them. They took their populations and their resources and added them to the empire. A dead world was worthless. These humans, Vexaron continued, are a problem we have never faced. Every species we have met has had a survival instinct. They fight until they cannot win and then they surrender. It is logical. It is rational. It is how intelligent beings behave. But the humans are not rational. No, they are something else. Vexaron pulled up the video of the Defiance's attack. He had watched it hundreds of times now. Look at this ship. It is small. It is weak. Its weapons could not scratch our shields. By every measure, it should have surrendered. But instead, its commander made a choice. She decided that death was better than submission, and her crew followed her. 1 human, said the communications officer. 1 ship. Perhaps she was defective. Perhaps her crew was forced. Perhaps, but then explain this. Vexaron played the message from the human Secretary General. The words echoed through the room. Every ship in our fleet will do the same. Every human on Earth will do the same. You can kill us all, but you will never own us. Words, just words. Are they? Look at their history. Vexaron brought up files the intelligence division had compiled. This species has been fighting itself since it gained intelligence. Wars over territory, wars over beliefs, wars over resources, wars over ideas. They have killed billions of their own kind, and yet they keep fighting. They never stop. That makes them dangerous. That makes them terrifying. Vexaron turned off the display. The High Council wants us to wait. They want to study these humans more before we proceed. They want to find a weakness, something we can exploit. Until then, we hold position. On Earth, the waiting continued, but humanity was not idle. In shipyards around the world, workers labored day and night. They were building new ships, not the sleek patrol vessels of before, but something different. These ships were ugly. They were brutal. They were covered in armor and filled with the most powerful engines humanity could make. They had only one purpose: to hit things very hard. Engineers called them hammers. The public called them class ships, after the captain who showed them the way. Lieutenant Commander James watched the first hammer take shape in the orbital shipyard above Earth. He had survived the Defiance. He was one of only 3 crew members who had been in a section of the ship that broke off before impact. He had floated in space for 6 hours before rescue ships found him. 6 hours alone with his thoughts, watching the wreckage of the alien flagship drift past. Now he was helping build the weapons that would continue what his captain had started. She would have loved this, he said quietly. Next to him, another survivor nodded. Sarah Park had been the weapons officer on the Defiance. She had burns on her arms and a scar on her face from that day. She wore them proudly. She would have complained about the design, Sarah said. You know how she was about aesthetics. She always said a ship should be beautiful. These aren't beautiful. No, but they're effective. That's what matters now. Below them, on Earth's surface, other preparations were being made. Scientists worked to understand the alien technology from the flagship wreckage. They had recovered thousands of pieces of debris. Each one was a puzzle that might hold the key to fighting back. Dr. Maya led the research team. She was a physicist, not a warrior. Before the aliens came, she had been studying black holes. Now she was studying alien power systems and trying to figure out how to break them. The shield technology is remarkable, she told her team. It creates a field of compressed space-time around the ship. Energy weapons hit the field and are redirected. It's almost perfect. Almost. Almost. The key word is energy. The shields are designed to stop directed energy. Lasers, particle beams, plasma weapons, anything that moves at or near the speed of light. But physical objects, she smiled. Physical objects have mass, they have momentum, and momentum is very hard to stop. So the Defiance got through, because it was a physical object. Yes, a very fast physical object. The shield slowed it down, but they couldn't stop it completely. The ship still hit with tremendous force. Doctor pulled up a diagram. If we can build weapons that move faster, hit harder, the alien shields become much less effective. Someone said, mass drivers, kinetic weapons. Exactly. The aliens have spent 1,000,000 years fighting enemies with energy weapons. They have never faced an enemy who throws rocks at them. Doctor laughed. Very fast rocks. Word of the research spread. Hope began to grow. Maybe humanity could fight back. Maybe they were not as helpless as they seemed. But the aliens were not idle either. On the command ship, Vexoran received reports from his scouts. The humans were building things, new ships, new weapons. They were preparing to fight. They are brave, his first officer observed. Foolish but brave. Do not underestimate them, Vexoran warned. Remember the Defiance. Remember what one ship did to us. One ship caught us by surprise. It will not happen again. Will it not? Look at these new vessels they are building. Vexoran showed the scout images on the screen. No weapons that we can see, no offensive capability at all, just engines and armor. What do you think they are for? The first officer's face changed as understanding dawned. They are building more ships like the Defiance, ships designed to ram us. Yes, they are turning their entire fleet into weapons. They are willing to throw themselves at us, ship after ship, until we are all dead or they are. That is insane. That is human, and that is why the High Council is worried. We could destroy their fleet. We could bombard their cities from orbit, but they would never stop fighting. They would throw rocks at us. They would crash their aircraft into our landing ships. They would attack us with their bare hands if they had nothing else. Vexoran turned away from the screen. I have studied their history. They have a saying, give me liberty or give me death. They have said it for centuries. I thought it was just words. Now I know they mean it. Back on Earth, the people were starting to mean it too. In cities around the world, volunteers lined up to join the military. Young people, old people, people who had never held a weapon in their lives. They came because they had seen what the Defiance did. They came because they refused to surrender. Among them was a young woman named Maria. She was 20 years old. She had been studying to be a teacher. Now she was standing in line at a recruitment center in Ayers, waiting to sign up for the Space Navy. The recruiter looked at her application. Are you related to? She was my cousin, Maria said. We grew up together. The recruiter was silent for a moment. Then he stood up and saluted. It is an honor. Maria felt tears in her eyes, but she blinked them away. When do I start? Tomorrow. We're putting everyone through accelerated training. We don't have much time. Maria nodded. She thought about the stories they had shared as children, about the dreams they had dreamed, had always wanted to see the stars. She had made it farther than any of them ever expected. Now it was Maria's turn to continue the journey. 3 days after the Defiance changed history, humanity was transforming. They were building weapons. They were training soldiers. They were preparing for a war that might destroy them. But they were not afraid. Fear had left them when showed them what courage looked like. In space, the alien fleet waited. Reinforcements were coming. 1,000,000 years of conquest was on their side. But humanity had something the aliens had never encountered before: the absolute refusal to kneel. The countdown to war continued, and everyone, human and alien alike, knew that when it began, the galaxy would never be the same. 20 days had passed. The alien reinforcements had arrived. What was once a fleet of 2,000 ships was now a force of over 8,000. They spread across the space between Mars and Earth like a dark cloud, blocking out the stars. It was the largest military force the Dominion had ever sent to conquer a single world. And they were not alone. A being had come with the reinforcements. His name, translated roughly, was the Bringer of Peace. He was not a military commander. He was something more dangerous. He was a negotiator. The Bringer of Peace had ended 1,000 wars without firing a shot. He understood how species thought. He knew how to find what they valued and use it against them. He had brought rebellions to their knees with words alone. Now he studied the humans through the screens of his ship. He watched their news broadcasts. He listened to their music. He read their books. And for the first time in his very long life, he was not sure he could win. "They are strange," he said to Commander Vexoran. "Every species values survival above all else. It is the most basic instinct, but these humans, they have placed other things above survival: honor, freedom, pride. They would rather die than lose these things." "Then we cannot negotiate with them," Vexoran said. "I did not say that. I said they are strange, not impossible. Every species has pressure points, things they care about more than their beliefs. We must find the human pressure point." "Their families," the commander suggested. "They form strong bonds with their offspring." "Perhaps, but threatening their families might make them fight harder, not surrender. We need something more subtle." The Bringer of Peace was quiet for a moment. "Give me time. Let me learn more about them. Do not attack yet." "The High Council wants results." "The High Council wants a successful conquest. A dead world is not a success. Give me time." Vexoran agreed. The attack was delayed. On Earth, humanity used every moment they were given. The first Hammer-class ship was complete. It was called the because there was no other name it could have. Lieutenant Commander James was given command. He stood on the bridge of the new ship and felt the weight of history on his shoulders. There was not a beautiful ship. It was 100 meters of armor and engines with no windows and no unnecessary systems. It was designed to do one thing: accelerate to maximum speed and hit whatever was in front of it. The crew compartment was at the very back, protected by layers of metal. When the ship hit its target, the crew would be thrown into escape pods automatically. Maybe they would survive. Maybe they would not. "She's ready, Commander," the chief engineer reported. "Best speed is 4% of light, faster than the Defiance." Nodded. 4% of light. Fast enough to punch through any shield. Fast enough to break any ship. "How many more ships like this do we have?" 20 in the next 2 weeks. 100 by the end of the month, if we have that long. We have to." The training intensified. Pilots learned to fly the Hammer ships. They practiced acceleration runs, escape procedures, targeting systems. They knew what they were signing up for. They volunteered anyway. Maria was one of them. She had completed basic training in record time. Now she was learning to fly a Hammer. She was not the best pilot. She was not the student, but she had something the instructors valued more than skill. She was not afraid to die. "The key is timing," her instructor explained. "You start your run too early, they have time to shoot you down. Too late and you don't have enough speed. You need to find the perfect moment." "How do I know when that is?" "You feel it. There's a moment in every battle when everything comes together, when you know what you have to do. Captain felt it when she ordered that charge. You'll feel it too when the time comes." Maria practiced every day. She ran simulations until she could do them in her sleep. She was getting better. She was getting ready. Meanwhile, Dr. Maya's research team made a breakthrough. The alien communication system, she announced to the military leaders. We've figured out how to jam it. General Williams leaned forward. Explain. Their ships communicate using a form of quantum entanglement. Very fast, very secure. But it requires a specific frequency of energy to maintain the connection. If we flood that frequency with noise, the connection breaks. They can't talk to each other. So we can cut their communications in battle. Better than that, we can cut specific ships off from the fleet, isolate them, make them fight alone while we focus on them one at a time. Williams smiled. It was the first good news he had heard in weeks. How do we deliver this jamming signal? We build emitters into our ships. Every hammer becomes a communications weapon as well as a physical weapon. When one of our ships goes in for a strike, it jams everything around it. The target can't call for help, can't coordinate with other ships, can't retreat. Do it, start production immediately. The war had not started yet, but humanity was getting ready to win it. On the alien command ship, the bringer of peace was making progress too. I have found their pressure point, he announced. It is not their families as we suspected, it is their history. Vexoran looked confused. Their history. Yes, humans have very long memories. They remember events from thousands of years ago as if they happened yesterday. They tell stories about ancestors they never met. They are proud of where they come from. How does this help us? Because their history is full of failure, wars they lost, civilizations they destroyed, mistakes they made. The bringer of peace brought up images on the screen. They had a period called the Dark Ages, a time when knowledge was lost, progress stopped, and millions died from disease and war. They still fear that time. They fear going backwards. So we offer them a choice: join the Dominion and advance forever. We give them technology beyond their dreams. We cure their diseases. We extend their lives. We take them to the stars. The bringer paused. Or refuse and we destroy their technology. We burn their cities. We send them back to that dark age they fear so much. Not death, but a return to the past they hate. Vexoran considered this. You think they will surrender to avoid going backwards? Some will, many will, enough to create division. And division is all we need. Once they start fighting each other about whether to surrender, they will be too weak to fight us. It was a good plan. It had worked on hundreds of worlds before. But the bringer of peace did not know about something called the Internet. When the alien broadcast came, offering technology and immortality in exchange for surrender, it did create discussion. There were people who wanted to accept. There were people who wanted to fight. There were arguments on every platform in every language. And then something unexpected happened. A video appeared online. It was not made by any government. It was made by a teenager in a small room with a cheap camera. Her name was Li Wei, and she was 15 years old. They want to give us technology, she said to the camera. They want to cure our diseases. They want to make us live forever. In exchange, we just have to give up everything that makes us human, our freedom, our choice, our right to make our own mistakes. The video went on. Li Wei talked about her grandmother who had survived a great famine and built a business with her own hands. She talked about her parents who had come from nothing and given her everything. She talked about what freedom meant to her family. My grandmother could have given up 100 times. Life was hard. She was poor. She was hungry, but she kept fighting because she knew that a life where someone else controlled her was not a life worth living. The aliens are offering us the same deal. Give up control and we'll take care of you. But my grandmother's generation knew what we seem to have forgotten. Nothing is free. If someone offers to take care of you, they also want to own you. The video ended with a simple message. Remember the defiance. Remember what 42 people died for. Don't let their sacrifice be for nothing. The video went everywhere. Within hours, billions of people had seen it. The discussion changed. The The people who wanted to surrender became quieter. The people who wanted to fight became louder. On the alien command ship, the bringer of peace watched the human response with growing concern. "They are not dividing," he said. "They are unifying. How is this possible?" Vexaron had no answer. The psychological attack had failed. "There is no more time for negotiations," the commander said. "The High Council demands action. We attack at dawn." The bringer of peace nodded slowly. He had failed. For the first time in his career, he had met a species he could not break with words. Now the military would have to try with weapons. The attack began 12 hours later. 8,000 alien ships moved toward Earth in perfect formation, their weapons charged. Their shields blazed with energy. It was the largest assault force in the history of the Dominion. Facing them were 150 human ships, the original patrol fleet, now repaired and upgraded, 30 Hammer-class ships, and dozens of converted civilian vessels, merchant ships and passenger liners that had been fitted with armor and engines. General Williams watched the alien advance from Earth Command, deep beneath the mountains of Colorado. "All ships, this is Earth Command. They're coming. You know what to do. Make them pay for every meter." Admiral commanding from the S-Unity responded. "Understood, Earth Command. All ships hold formation. Wait for them to come to us. Let them think we're going to be easy." The alien fleet closed the distance. At 10,000 kilometers they opened fire. Energy beams streaked across space, hitting the human fleet. Shields flared and failed. Ships exploded. In the first minute, humanity lost 20 vessels. But the rest held their ground. "Steady," Admiral ordered. "Steady, not yet." At 5,000 kilometers, the alien fleet slowed. They expected the humans to break and run, to scatter and try to escape. That was what every other species did at this point. The humans did not run. "Now," Admiral said. The Hammer ships launched, all 30 of them, accelerating to impossible speeds. Each one carried a jamming device that activated the moment they began their run. The alien formation suddenly went silent. Ships that had been perfectly coordinated were now alone, unable to talk to each other. Commander Vexaron watched in horror as 30 human ships shot toward his fleet like bullets. All ships, evasive action, fire at will. But his orders reached only the ships nearest to him. The rest could not hear him. They were deaf and blind, surrounded by electronic noise. The first hammer hit an alien cruiser at 4% of light. The ship ceased to exist. The cruiser was split in two, its core ignited by the impact. The explosion took out 3 more ships nearby. The second hammer hit seconds later, then the third, then the fourth. In less than a minute, humanity lost 30 ships and their crews, but they destroyed over 100 alien vessels and damaged hundreds more. James' ship, was the last hammer in the first wave. He had targeted the largest ship he could see, a carrier that was launching fighters. 10 seconds to impact, his navigator reported. "Crew into the pods," ordered, "now." Around him, his crew moved to the escape pods at the rear of the ship. He stayed at the helm. Someone had to guide the ship until the last moment. 5 seconds, "Commander, you need to go." "I'll be right behind you." But he knew he was lying. The angle was wrong. If he left now, the ship would miss its target. He had to stay. 2 seconds. Thought about Captain. He thought about what she would do. He smiled. They hit the alien carrier at 4% of light. The carrier exploded. So did 6 ships around it. James, who had survived the Defiance, who had helped build the weapons of humanity's resistance, died instantly. But his crew survived. The escape pods launched just before impact, thrown clear by the explosion. 18 people lived because one man stayed at his post. When the chaos cleared, the alien fleet had lost almost 200 ships. Humanity had lost 60. It was not a victory, But it was not the instant defeat everyone had expected. The aliens regrouped. They advanced again. The battle continued. For 6 hours, humans and aliens fought over the space between Mars and Earth. The humans used every trick they had. They rammed ships. They launched missiles filled with concrete. They flew unmanned drones into alien engines. They fought like no species the Dominion had ever faced. When it was over, the alien fleet had lost 600 ships. Humanity had lost 110. Most of their fleet was gone. But they were still fighting. Commander Vexaron looked at the casualty reports and felt something he had never felt in battle before: doubt. "We won," his first officer said. "Their fleet is destroyed. We lost 600 ships to a fleet 1/10 our size. If this is victory, I do not want to see defeat." The alien fleet moved closer to Earth. The planet hung before them, blue and green and fragile, easy to destroy. But that was not what the Dominion wanted. They wanted slaves, not corpses. "What are your orders, Commander?" Vexaron was silent for a long moment. Then he made a decision that would change everything. "We will not bombard the planet. We will not destroy them from orbit. We are going to land troops and take this world the old way, face to face." "Commander, their resistance on the ground could be." "Could be what? Worse than this?" Vexaron gestured at the debris field around them, the remains of 600 Dominion ships. "No, we tried to scare them. We tried to overwhelm them. Neither worked. Now we fight them on their terms. We show them that no matter how brave they are, they cannot stop us." The order went out. Thousands of landing ships began their descent toward Earth. The war was no longer in space. It was coming to the ground, and humanity was ready to meet it. Maria, watching from Earth's surface, saw the alien ships enter the atmosphere like falling stars. She gripped her weapon and waited. Had shown them how to fight in space. Now it was time to show the aliens how humans fought on land. The alien landing ships came down like rain, thousands of them falling through Earth's atmosphere, their heat shields glowing red against the sky. People across the planet stopped and watched. Some prayed, some cried, some picked up whatever weapon they could find and waited. The aliens chose their landing zones carefully. Major cities, industrial centers, military bases. They expected quick victories. They expected the humans to see their overwhelming numbers and surrender. They were wrong. In New York, the first landing ship touched down in Central Park. The hull opened, and 200 alien soldiers poured out. They were tall, skinned, with 4 arms and eyes that could see in every direction at once. They carried energy weapons that could cut through steel. They made it 50 meters before the first explosion hit. The humans had prepared. Every city had been fortified. Every street had been turned into a trap. The aliens walked into a world that was designed to kill them. From the buildings around the park, humans opened fire, not with energy weapons. They did not have those. They used bullets, explosives, fire, and anything else they could find. One man threw a pot of boiling water from his apartment window onto an alien below. It was not much, but it was something. The aliens had shields, personal shields that stopped most projectiles, but the shields could not stop everything. They could not stop the sheer volume of fire that came from every window, every rooftop, every doorway. And when the shields failed, the aliens discovered that human weapons were very effective against their bodies. The battle for Central Park lasted 3 hours. When it was over, 140 aliens were dead. So were almost 2,000 humans. But the landing zone was destroyed, the ship burned, and no alien soldier made it out of the park. Similar scenes played out across the world. In Tokyo, the aliens landed near the Imperial Palace. The Japanese self-defense forces were waiting. They had spent weeks digging tunnels, setting traps, and preparing for exactly this moment. The aliens advanced through streets that collapsed beneath them, into buildings that exploded around them, past walls that hid soldiers waiting to strike. In Moscow, the Russians used their winter as a weapon. They had turned off the heating in the entire city. They had flooded the streets with water and let it freeze. The aliens, adapted to the warm ships they had lived in for generations, found themselves fighting in a frozen maze where every step was treacherous. In Mumbai, 12 million civilians refused to evacuate. They formed human walls, blocked alien advances with their bodies, and attacked with tools and kitchen knives when they had nothing else. They died by the thousands, but they took aliens with them. This was not the war the Dominion expected. They had conquered worlds where armies surrendered after a single defeat. They had taken planets where populations welcomed them as saviors from their own failing governments. They had never faced a world where every single person was a soldier. Commander Vexaran received reports from every landing zone. None of them were good. "We have taken significant casualties," his ground commander reported. "For every human we kill, 10 more appear. They attack from everywhere. They use weapons we have never seen. They turn their own buildings into traps. They strap explosives to their own bodies and walk into our formations." "How many have we lost?" 20,000 ground troops in the first day. Vexaran was silent. 20,000 soldiers in one day. On most worlds, that would be the total casualties for an entire conquest. Here it was just the beginning. "Continue the assault," he ordered. "We have millions more soldiers. They will run out of fighters before we do." But he was not sure he believed his own words. Maria was in Airs when the aliens came. She had been assigned to a ground defense unit after her hammer training was complete. Now she was in the streets of her, fighting for every block. Her unit was 12 people. They had rifles, grenades, and a single rocket launcher. Against them was an alien squad of 30 soldiers with shields and energy weapons. The odds were impossible. But impossible was just another word now. It had lost its meaning when the Defiance flew into that flagship. "They're coming down 9, her squad leader reported. 30 of them, moving in formation. Maria looked at the street. It was one of the widest avenues in the world, perfect for an alien advance, terrible for defenders. "What's the plan?" "We slow them down. That's all we can do. Buy time for the civilians to evacuate." Maria nodded. She thought about what her cousin would do in this situation. "What if we don't just slow them down? What if we stop them?" The squad leader looked at her. "How?" Maria pointed at the buildings on either side of the avenue. "Those are old buildings, brick and stone. If we bring them down, we collapse the whole street, block their advance. And us with it." The squad leader was quiet for a moment, then she smiled. "Your cousin was." "Yes." "I can see the family resemblance." The squad leader turned to the rest of the unit. "New plan. We're bringing down the avenue. We need charges on the support columns. Move." They worked fast. The aliens were getting closer. Maria could hear their weapons firing in the distance, could see the glow of their energy beams reflecting off the buildings. When the charges were set, the squad took positions. They would need to stay until the aliens entered the kill zone. Some of them would not make it out. Maria found herself thinking about strange things: her mother's cooking, the sound of rain on the roof of their house, the face of a boy she had liked in school but never talked to, small things, human things. The aliens appeared at the end of the avenue, 30 shapes moving with mechanical precision. Their shields glowed blue in the darkness. "Hold," the squad leader whispered. "Hold, hold." The aliens reached the center of the avenue, directly beneath the buildings packed with explosives. "Now!" Maria pressed the detonator. The world turned to fire and sound. The buildings on either side of the avenue fell inward, thousands of tons of brick and steel and concrete crashing down on the alien formation. The ground shook. Dust filled the air. For a moment, Maria could not see or hear anything. When the dust cleared, the avenue was blocked. A wall of rubble stretched across it, 3 stories high. Nothing could get through. And beneath that rubble were 30 alien soldiers who would never threaten heirs again. "Move," the squad leader shouted, "before they send more." Maria ran. Her ears were ringing. Her body was covered in dust, but she was alive and the aliens had been stopped. As the days passed, humanity discovered something important about their enemies. Dr. Maya was working on alien bodies recovered from the battlefields. She had been looking for weaknesses, anything that could help in the fight. What she found changed everything. "Their blood," she explained to General Williams in a secure video call. "It's not like ours. It uses a different chemical process to carry oxygen, and that process is vulnerable to certain compounds." "What kind of compounds?" "Common ones, things we have everywhere on Earth." Doctor held up a small vial. "This is sodium chloride, table salt. When introduced into the alien bloodstream, it causes catastrophic cellular breakdown. They die within minutes." William stared at her. "You're telling me we can kill them with salt?" "In high enough concentrations, yes. Their shields stop projectiles, but they don't stop everything. We can create aerosol weapons, bombs that disperse salt particles into the air. The aliens breathe it in, and their blood turns toxic." "Why didn't their other conquered species figure this out?" "Because they never had the chance. The Dominion attacks, overwhelms, and conquers before anyone can fight back. No one has ever had time to study them like we have." The news spread quickly. Within days, factories around the world were producing salt weapons. Simple bombs, grenade-sized canisters, even modified fire extinguishers filled with concentrated salt solution. The aliens began to die. In Paris, a resistance fighter detonated a salt bomb in an alien command post. Every alien in the building died choking on their own poisoned blood. In Sydney, a team of scientists created a salt mist that could be sprayed from aircraft. They flew low over alien formations and watched as hundreds of soldiers collapsed. In Cairo, children threw bags of salt at alien patrols. It was not enough to kill them, but it was enough to hurt them, to make them afraid, to show them that even the smallest human could be dangerous. Commander Vexoran received the reports with growing horror. "They have found our weakness," he told the bringer of peace. "Every hour we lose more soldiers to this poison of theirs. They are putting it in everything, in the water, in the air, in weapons we cannot detect." "How is this possible? Our medical teams should have identified this vulnerability ago." "Our medical teams have never had to defend against it. No conquered species has ever fought long enough to discover it." Vexoran's voice was bitter. "We thought we were invincible. We were fools. Then we must retreat, withdraw from the surface and bombard from orbit. And kill them all. The High Council wants slaves, not corpses." "The High Council will want nothing if we lose this war." The bringer of peace stepped closer to the commander. "You do not understand what is happening. Word of this is spreading. Other species in the Dominion are watching. If we lose here, if these humans defeat us, every conquered world will believe they can do the same. The entire empire could fall." Vexoran understood. This was no longer just a battle for one planet. This was a battle for the soul of the Dominion. "We will not retreat," he decided. "We will adapt, order all troops to use sealed suits, filter the air, purify the water. We will take this world even if it kills us." The war continued, but now it was different. The aliens were no longer the unstoppable force they had seemed. They were fighting for their lives just like the humans. Maria was promoted to sergeant after the battle for heirs. She led her squad through a dozen more engagements, each one harder than the last. She lost friends. She gained scars. She watched the city she loved turn into a... But she also watched the aliens fail. Every day the human resistance grew stronger. More weapons, more fighters, more salt. The aliens were still powerful, still deadly, still winning many battles, but they were losing the war. Slowly, painfully, one casualty at a time. On the 63rd day of the invasion, Maria was part of a force that retook the center of Airs. The aliens had fortified the old congressional building. They had thousands of troops inside. The humans had more. The battle lasted 18 hours. Maria was in the first wave that breached the building. She fought through corridors filled with smoke and fire, her rifle in her hands, her squad at her side. She saw aliens die. She saw humans die. She almost died herself twice. When it was over, the building was in human hands. The alien flag that had flown over it was torn down and replaced with the blue and white of Argentina. Maria stood on the steps of the building and looked out at the city. It was ruined, burned and broken, but it was free. Behind her, a soldier held up a communication device. "Sergeant, there's a call for you, from Earth Command." Maria took the device. "This is." "Sergeant, this is General Williams. I've been following your unit's progress. Impressive work." "Thank you, sir. I have a new assignment for you. We're planning something big, something that could end this war. We need soldiers who aren't afraid to do what needs to be done. Your name was at the top of every list." Maria looked at the destroyed city. She thought about what she had started, about what still needed to be finished. "What's the mission, sir?" "We're going to take the fight to them, not here on Earth, up there." Williams paused. "We're going to capture an alien ship, and we're going to use it to attack their fleet." Maria felt her heart beat faster. It was insane, impossible, exactly what humans did best. "When do I leave?" "Tomorrow. Get some rest, Sergeant. You're going to need it." Maria ended the call and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, the alien fleet was waiting, watching, thinking they were safe. They were wrong. The war was about to change again, and this time humanity was going on the offensive. The plan was simple in concept and impossible in execution. A team of humans would capture an alien landing ship, fly it back to the fleet, and dock with the main command vessel. Once inside, they would plant explosives, destroy the ship's communications, and kill as many high-ranking officers as possible. No one expected to survive. Maria stood in the briefing room with 50 other soldiers. They were the best fighters humanity had left. Veterans of 100 battles. People who had already died once in their minds and were just waiting for their bodies to catch up. General Williams stood at the front of the room, his face showing every one of his 70 years. "I'm not going to lie to you. This mission has maybe a 10% chance of success, probably less. But if you succeed, you will cut off the head of the snake. The alien fleet will be thrown into chaos. Our remaining ships can hit them while they're confused. We might actually win this war." Might, such a small word, such a fragile hope. "You all volunteered for this," Williams continued. "You can still walk away. No one will think less of you." No one moved. Williams nodded. "Then may God go with you. Launches in 6 hours." Maria spent those 6 hours writing letters. One to her mother, one to her father, one to the baby cousin she had never met, born 3 weeks into the invasion in a hospital basement while bombs fell outside. She told them she loved them. She told them not to mourn too long. She told them to live. Then she suited up and walked to the captured alien landing ship. They had taken it 2 weeks ago in a raid that cost 30 lives. Since then, engineers had been studying it, learning its systems, making it work for human hands. It was not comfortable. It was not pretty, but it would fly. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Park was leading the mission. She had survived the Defiance she had survived a dozen battles since. Now she was going to finish what had started. "Everyone aboard," Park ordered. "Check your weapons, check your suits, check your salt grenades. We have one chance at this." The ship lifted off. It rose through Earth's atmosphere, passing through the layer of smoke and ash that now covered most of the planet. Above, the stars waited. The alien fleet was still there. 7,000 ships, down from 8,000 at the start of the invasion. They were damaged, tired, and frustrated, but they were still dangerous. Park guided their stolen ship toward the fleet. The communication system's broadcast captured alien codes. For now, they looked like any other landing ship returning from the surface. "So far so good," the pilot muttered. "They're not shooting." "Don't jinx it," someone said. Maria watched the alien fleet grow larger on the screens. So many ships, so much power, and humanity had hurt them, had made them bleed. That thought gave her strength. "There it is," Park said quietly, "the command ship." It was the largest vessel in the fleet after the destroyed flagship. A massive structure, 3 kilometers long, covered in weapon platforms and shield generators. Inside was Commander Vexaron. Inside were the leaders of the invasion. Inside was the heart of the enemy. "We're receiving a docking request," the pilot reported. "They want to know why we're approaching the command ship." Park had prepared for this. "Tell them we're carrying a wounded high officer. We need immediate medical attention." The pilot transmitted the message. Everyone held their breath. The response came back. "Permission granted, dock at Bay 7. Maria let out a breath she did not know she was holding. They were in. The ship entered the massive docking bay. Around them, alien workers moved about their tasks, paying little attention to the new arrival. They had no reason to suspect anything. No species had ever attacked the Dominion from inside their own ships. "Helmets on," Park ordered. "Salt grenades ready. We move fast and we hit hard. Primary target is the bridge. Secondary targets are the engineering section and the communication array. Teams Alpha, Beta, and Gamma will split off at the first junction. Team Delta stays with me." Maria was in Team Delta. She checked her rifle one more time. Her hands were steady. Her mind was clear. "May God have mercy on us," someone whispered. "God helps those who help themselves," Park replied. "Let's go." The hatch opened. 50 humans poured out into the alien ship. The first aliens they encountered were workers, unarmed and surprised. They died before they could raise an alarm. The teams moved through the corridors, following maps created from the captured ship's computer systems. They were inside the beast now, inside the monster that had killed so many of their people. The first real resistance came at a security checkpoint, a squad of alien soldiers with weapons ready. But they were not prepared for the salt grenades. The small canisters flew through the air, burst open, and filled the corridor with white mist. The aliens breathed it in. They screamed. They fell. Maria stepped over their bodies and kept moving. Team Alpha split off toward engineering. Team Beta headed for communications. Team Gamma went to create diversions, drawing enemy forces away from the real targets. Team Delta, with Maria and Park, continued toward the bridge. The aliens were reacting now. Alarms sounded. Soldiers filled the corridors. The element of surprise was gone. But humans had another element: determination. Maria fought through the alien ship like a woman possessed. She did not think about dying. She did not think about living. She thought only about moving forward, about reaching the bridge, about finishing the mission. Had started this. Maria would end it. They lost people, fell at a junction, shot by an energy beam that burned through his chest, was killed by an alien blade. No relation to James, died holding a corridor so the others could advance. By the time they reached the bridge, Team Delta was down to 15 people. 15 humans against whatever was waiting behind those doors. Park placed the charges. "When this goes, we have maybe 30 seconds before they seal the bridge. Everyone goes in together. Everyone fights until we can't fight anymore. Questions?" There were no questions. The charges blew. The doors fell. Inside the bridge, Commander Vexaron turned to face the humans who had come to kill him. He was tall, even for his species. His skin was marked with scars from battles on 100 worlds. His 4 arms held weapons, and his compound eyes showed no fear. "You should not be here," he said in perfect English. He had learned the language during the invasion. Know your enemy, the old saying went. And yet here we are, Park replied. She raised her rifle. The battle for the bridge was short and brutal. Alien officers died. Human soldiers died. Energy beams and bullets filled the air. Maria threw her last salt grenade and watched 3 aliens choke on their own blood. When it was over, 5 humans stood among the bodies. Park, Maria, 3 others whose names Maria could not remember through the haze of combat. Commander Vexoran was still alive. He was wounded, bleeding from a dozen wounds, but he refused to fall. He stood at the center of his ruined bridge, surrounded by the bodies of his officers, and faced the humans who had destroyed everything. "You cannot win," he said. "Even if you kill me, the Dominion will send more ships, more soldiers. We have conquered 10,000 worlds. We will conquer yours." Park walked toward him, her rifle aimed at his head. "Maybe, but you won't be there to see it." "Wait," Maria stepped forward. "Don't kill him yet." Park looked at her. "Sergeant." Maria faced the alien commander. This was the being who had ordered the attack on Earth, who had watched as millions of humans died, who had thought her species would bow like all the others. "You want to know why you're losing?" she asked. "You had more ships, more soldiers, better weapons, better technology. By every measure you should have won. But you didn't understand something about us." Vexoran's eyes focused on her. "And what is that?" "You thought we were afraid of dying. We're not. We're afraid of living without freedom. We're afraid of our children growing up as slaves. We're afraid of forgetting what it means to be human." Maria stepped closer. "My cousin was. She showed you what humans are willing to do. Now I'm going to show you something else." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small device. "This is a transmitter. It's connected to cameras all over your ship. Everything that's happened here has been broadcast to every ship in your fleet. They've watched us fight through their most powerful vessel. They've watched their commander defeated by a handful of humans. And now they're going to watch what comes next." Park understood. She stepped back and let Maria have the moment. Maria looked into the camera. "This message is for the Dominion. You have tried to conquer our world. You have failed. Your fleet is broken. Your soldiers are dying. Your commander is about to join them. This is your only warning. Leave our solar system. Go back to wherever you came from. Tell everyone you meet that Earth is not worth the cost." She paused, letting the words sink in across the alien fleet. "But if you stay, if you keep fighting, we will do to every ship in your fleet what we did to this one. We will hunt you through the stars. We will follow you back to your home world. We will burn everything you have built over your million years of conquest, because we are humans, and we never ever give up." Maria turned back to Vexoran. "Any last words?" The alien commander looked at her for a long moment, and then, incredibly, he laughed. It was a strange sound, not quite like human laughter, but recognizable. "You are remarkable," he said. "In a million years I have never seen anything like your species. You should have died, you should have surrendered. Instead, you stand here victorious." He lowered his weapons. "I will not fight you anymore, but I must warn you, the Dominion does not forget. They will not stop because of one defeat. They will return. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in your lifetime, but they will return." "Then we'll be ready," Maria said. "We'll always be ready." She raised her rifle and fired. Commander Vexoran fell. The leader of the invasion was dead, and every alien ship in the fleet had watched it happen. The effect was immediate. Across the fleet, chaos erupted. Ships that had been preparing to fight began to power down their weapons. Captains argued about what to do. Some wanted to continue the attack. Others wanted to retreat. The chain of command was broken. Earth's remaining ships struck while the aliens were confused. The second wave of hammer ships, built during the invasion, launched their attacks. Unmanned drones filled with salt compounds crashed into alien vessels. The fleet that had once numbered 8,000 ships found itself surrounded by enemies who would not stop fighting. Within hours, the alien fleet began to withdraw. Not all of them. Some ships stayed, fought, and were destroyed. But the majority of the fleet turned away from Earth and headed for the edge of the solar system. They had come as conquerors. They left as the first species in 1,000,000 years to be defeated by their prey. Maria and the surviving members of her team were rescued by a human shuttle 3 hours after the battle for the bridge. They were taken back to Earth as heroes. Parades were planned. Medals were prepared. Speeches were written. But Maria did not care about any of that. She stood at the window of the shuttle and watched the alien fleet disappear into the darkness of space. She thought about all the people who had died to make this moment possible, about what it meant for humanity to have one. They had beaten the Dominion. They had proven that humans could not be conquered, but Vexaron's warning echoed in her mind. The Dominion would return. Maybe not soon, maybe not in her lifetime, but someday. Earth would have to be ready. The rebuilding began the day after the alien fleet left. Cities were in ruins. Billions had died. The world was in ways that would take generations to heal. But humanity was not broken. If anything, they were stronger. They had faced the greatest threat in their history and survived. They had shown the universe that they were not prey. They were predators. New ships were built. Not just hammer ships designed for one attack, but real warships capable of fighting across the stars. Scientists studied the alien technology recovered from crashed ships, learned from it, improved upon it. Within a decade, humanity had developed shields and weapons that matched the Dominion. Within a century, they had surpassed them. Earth reached out to other worlds, not as conquerors but as liberators. They found the species the Dominion had enslaved and offered them a choice: join humanity in a new alliance or remain alone. Most chose to join. The alliance grew. 100 species, 1,000 worlds, a force that could stand against the Dominion when it finally returned. Maria lived to see the beginning of this new age. She became an admiral, then a diplomat, then the first human ambassador to the galactic alliance she had helped create. She was 93 years old when she finally retired, passing on her duty to the next generation. On the day she died, peacefully in her bed surrounded by family, the Alliance broadcast a message to every world. It was simple, just a few words, but it carried the weight of everything humanity had accomplished. Today, Admiral Maria has passed into history. She was a soldier, a leader, and a symbol of what humanity can achieve. She fought in the darkest hours of our species and helped bring us into the light. She will never be forgotten. Maria was buried on Earth, in Ayers, next to a memorial to her cousin. The memorial was simple: a piece of metal from the Defiance, recovered from the wreckage of the alien flagship, mounted on a stone base. The words on the base were the same words that had been on the Defiance's hull. Still standing. They had won, not because they were stronger or smarter or better equipped. They had won because they refused to give up. Because when the aliens gave them 20 seconds to surrender, they had used those seconds to attack. The Dominion never returned. Some said they were afraid. Others said they had collapsed, their empire crumbling as enslaved species rose up, inspired by humanity's example. No one knew for certain. But on every human world, in every school, in every family, the story was told. The story of how a small ship called the Defiance changed the course of history. The story of how 42 people showed the universe that humanity would never bow. And on every alien world that had heard that story, beings of 1,000 different species looked up at the stars and said the same thing. Thank you, humans. Thank you for showing us how to be free. The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people had looked up and wondered what was out there. Now they knew. The universe was dangerous, full of powers that would crush them if they could. But the universe had also learned something about humanity. They were not a species that surrendered. They were not a species that bent. They were a species that fought back. And that made all the difference. On the memorial to, someone had added a new line below, still standing. It was carved there by an unknown hand, sometime in the decades after the war. No one knew who wrote it, but everyone agreed it was perfect. It said, "And we always will be."